The Twitter tool takes a little bit of setup in order to get it running right. The reason for this is because we made it so each person needs to connect their own Twitter API application to ReaderLinks, as opposed to us having one big ReaderLinks application that everybody funnels through. Why did we do that? Well, if you think about the number of people on ReaderLinks and how many of them are tweeting at the same time, that's a lot of tweets that can go out every single hour through one account, which means that Twitter is more likely to rate limit us on that account. Rate limiting basically means they're going to say, hey, you're sending a lot of data through here, and we don't like it. So we're going to kind of stop you from doing that. And that means that tweets can get interrupted and so on. However, if each of us, like if I use my own Twitter API and Ben uses his and you use yours and so on, then each one of us is only sending a maximum of one tweet per hour, which is great because that basically means that my account's only sending one, yours is only sending one, and so on. So Twitter shouldn't have any problem with that. This is a demo account, and what I'm going to show you later is, where we're going to have a lot more tweets and categories and so on and so forth. But that's going to be on my normal account. For right now, this is just a temporary one so we can show you how to set up the API side of things. Again, this is a little involved, so let's just take this step by step. So the first thing is I went to the Twitter tool at the top here on the menu, and then I'm going to click on API settings. The handle is basically just your Twitter handle, so you just fill that in. And now is where it starts getting fun. And what we're going to need here are what's called the API key and secret and access token. This is basically just stuff that tells Twitter you are who you say you are. And so that way, nobody else can tweet on your behalf without having this information. So you're going to be creating your own little Twitter app API information. And I keep saying API. You may not know what that means. API means Applications Programmers Interface. And all it really is just a way for Twitter to know who you are, who I am, and then they give us a set of tools that we can use to access their system and tweet for you, read tweets, etc. Okay? So let's go ahead and figure out, what do we do to get these guys? So I'm going to open a new tab, and I'm going to go to dev.twitter.com. And you'll have to log in, and this is the same login information that you use just for your standard Twitter account. So if you're logged into Twitter, you should be logged in here too. At the top, you should see an option that says My Apps. However, if you don't, you can also come down here and see API Console and Manage My Apps and so on. Manage My Apps is the same thing as the top button. So if we click on that, it's going to bring up our apps that we have. Now I've created two apps here. Yes, I actually have one called Book Pimp. I know that's weird, but I have that, and that's what I personally use. What we're going to do is click on Create New App, and then we're going to have to give it a name. Now, the name has to be unique to you, meaning that it can't be a name that's used elsewhere on Twitter. So what I would recommend is just putting in ReaderLinks, and then a space, and then putting in your particular handle. So you say ReaderLinks, author JP Logsdon is my handle, so whatever your handle is for Twitter, just put that. And then that way you're pretty confident, you should be pretty confident that ReaderLinks and your handle is not going to be taken. As far as description, whatever you want to put in here. So I'm just going to put in here ReaderLinks tweet tool, or Twitter tool, let's say that, if I can spell. Okay, and then website. So here I'm just going to put in my actual website, like that. Okay, so I'm putting in all the information. Notice I only had to fill in the information that had the stars on it. Okay, I'm not going to bother with the callback URL. I'm just going to click yes, and I'm going to create my application. And it takes a couple seconds, and then we're going to see that our application was created. We're not going to worry about most of this stuff here except for one thing, and that is permissions. So when we come over to permissions, we're going to want to make sure that we have read-write access. Okay? When you click this and you say you want to update your settings, it could very well be that Twitter says, hey, you first have to verify your account. At which point they're going to send you a code to your cell phone. You'll have to verify that code by entering it back into their system, the whole deal, just so they can make sure you are who you say you are. That way somebody else doesn't just create stuff for you, and then next thing you know, people are tweeting on your behalf and you're like, wow, what happened? So it's just a security thing that they do. And there should be instructions that they pop up explaining how to go about doing that. Okay, so again, we want to click on permissions, make sure that there is read-write access for this, and we're going to click update. And so it's done, and it says it'll take a couple of seconds to do it, but by the time we actually get tweets going, we'll probably be fine. The next thing we're going to do is click on keys and access tokens. Now, if you recall, we had things in here like API key and API secret. So if we take a quick peek back, you'll see API key here, API secret, and so on, right? Let me close this tab so we just have the two. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to copy this value, and we're going to, so it's API key, and we're going to come over and place it in the API key area. Let's make sure to get rid of any spaces. Sometimes you'll see that it puts spaces and stuff there, so let's get rid of that. And then it says API secret, so we're going to copy that as well. And let's paste that one in there. Make sure that there's no spaces at the beginning. There's not. Okay. Now we need to get two more. It's called API, it's called access token and access token secret. But where is that stuff? Well, if you notice down here, it says your access token. So we have to click this button that says create my access tokens. It does that. Now we scroll down and we see that there are two of them. So at this point, we have to copy the access token. That would be the whole thing, including the dash and everything. So we copy that, and we come over here and paste that in. Check to make sure there's no spaces at the beginning there again. And then we copy the access token secret, okay? And we paste that in there. So now we have those in there. So at this point, we have everything we need. So we're all set there, and then we can just click update the API, and boom, now we have all of our settings saved. Now this is just a temporary one that I've created, and I'm going to go ahead and delete it, so that way none of these values are accessible. If at any time you say, you know what, I don't want to have that running anymore, you know, I don't feel comfortable, whatever, you know, the reason might be, what you can do is click on the application management. You come back into this particular item that you just created, and you click delete application. You say delete, and it's gone. And that means that these values are no longer going to work. Okay? So I'm going to go over to my actual account now so we can see a bunch of tweets in action. Okay, so here we are on my actual tweets page. You can see I have a whole bunch of tweets listed in here. That's all done by book, the image that I'm using, what the actual tweet says, the categories, the status of this tweet, whether it's active or paused, when was the last time I tweeted it, how many total clicks have I had all times for this particular tweet, and how many clicks since the last time that I tweeted it. There are a couple things here that we have to talk about, but I kind of want to go in reverse order on these tabs. We've already talked about the API settings. I'm not going to show those because they actually have my actual API information in there. You really shouldn't show your API information to anyone, so I'm going to keep that one hidden. But I'm going to click on Twitter Send Settings. Now right now you're going to notice that I happen to have my system send paused. So I'm not really sending any tweets right now. That's because I'm about to do a new book release, and so I'm going to be writing up some new tweets, and I want everything to kind of start going out fresh. But once I do activate it, I will probably change this to be a little more frequent than once every 12 hours. And you might think, you know what, let me just send one every hour. If you have tons and tons and tons of tweets, that's okay to do. But if you only have, you know, a handful, think about this. You're going to be sending out the same tweet over and over and over again, and it's not going to be as effective over the course of time. So if you have, you know, one or two books and you have, let's say, a total of 10 tweets or something like that, you probably should do one every 6 hours maybe, as opposed to every hour. If you're about to do an event, maybe then you change it to every hour and you know, put together a bunch of tweets and stuff for effectiveness. That's going to be, you know, a good effective strategy. But again, if you're just sending one every hour, after a while it just becomes noise to people and they're not going to pay attention to it. So just set these wisely. The next thing we're going to talk about is categories. You can set up categories for each one of your tweets. This is pretty cool because what it allows you to do is to activate or pause any category or group of categories that you want. And that's good because that way, if you have a whole bunch of tweets that you're promoting, let's say this weekend, let's say that you have a category that you call free weekend, okay? You can put a whole bunch of brand new tweets in there that have like the hashtags free. It says, get it for $0, whatever. You can do all that and create specific ones for that, and then just deactivate all the rest of these and activate only the one that you created called free or free weekend. That way, all of the rest of your tweets won't send at all. Only the ones for the free weekend will send, which is really kind of cool. It allows you to, be very careful and targeted for what you want to promote. So once we understand a little bit about the categories, I'm going to go ahead and set one of these to paused. I'm going to set bundles to paused because I want to show you something here. I'm going to go back to the tweets, and we're going to notice that this one says it's red, so it's paused. But there's also a green category that's not paused. That means that this tweet is still going to send on my regular interval if it happens to be one that's selected. Just so you understand, the system, however you have this set, let's just say, for example, that we have this set, every 6 hours. Every 6 hours, it's going to grab one of my tweets from this list and tweet it out if it hasn't already been tweeted. So if we scroll down here, you're going to see these that say waiting. It's going to grab one of these waitings and send it out. Then it will mark it as sent using this kind of a view. So it's not going to be sent again in 6 hours. It'll grab another one that's waiting and do that. Once all of the waitings run out and they've all been marked, it resets them all to waiting and then starts again by picking one at random and sending it out. But it won't do that if either the categories, so all categories are red, or if the active status for a particular tweet is paused. So, for example, this one will still send because the tweet itself is active, and we have one category that's paused, but the other category is still active. So it requires that these be in sync. So to show what I mean by that, let's change the IIB one to paused. Do that. And now when we come back to the tweets, we're going to see that this particular category is now paused. So even though this tweet is considered active by itself, the category that it's in is not active, which means that the system is going to bypass any of these that say IIB on them, only say IIB on them, I should caveat that, and not send them out. However, even though we've paused the bundles here, we haven't paused Platoon F, we haven't paused Ononikin, so these are still going to send just fine if they're available to send. So just to be careful here, I'm going to go back and reset these because I don't want to forget to do that. So let me put these back to active real quick. Okay, and now let's go back to our tweets. So what's another way that we could make sure that this particular one doesn't send? Easy, we just go into edit and we can just pause it right here. So now this particular tweet is going to be paused, and you're going to notice when we come back here, you're not going to see it at the top. That's because it's being sorted right now in status order, so it's now become the bottom one that's just been paused. Okay, so that just basically means that even though our two categories are green, we've specifically told the system, hey, no matter what, don't send this guy out on the regular interval. I can still click tweet this now and it will override anything over here and just send it because I've decided that I want to do that. So you can absolutely do that if you want to. For example, let's go ahead and just click on this guy right here. Since this one says waiting anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and click it. And boom, there it goes. And then that one has now actually been moved to the top. And so what you can see here is that it also reset the last send to 0. And I'm going to show you something else. I'm going to go ahead and click Twitter Tool again. It's going to refresh this page. And when I do that, you're going to see that this thing automatically has 2 clicks. And you might be thinking, what? There's no way. Well, here's kind of what happens. Number one, you could have people who are following you who have set you on a retweet bot. So every time you send a tweet, their system picks it up and it automatically retweets it, which means you're going to get hits instantly. I bet you if I click it again, there's probably even more. See? So people aren't actually seeing this and just clicking it. These are bots that are doing that. The second thing that could happen is that Twitter could be verifying that the URL is accurate. And in so doing, it sends a check back to the system to say, hey, let me check your link in here. And when that happens, it's going to increment this counter also. So you're going to see a little bit of data bursts whenever you do these things. And by the way, this can also happen on Facebook and so on, because there are bots out there that people employ to repost your images, to share, like, whatever. That way they seem like they're engaging with you, so you'll retweet their stuff. So just be aware of that. Okay, so another thing that we can do, as opposed to seeing all this stuff at once, we can actually come down here and say, just show me the stuff for, let's go with Platoon F, Pentology. Now I'm only seeing those particular items. Okay, so you can do that as well if you just want to hook on that, or you just go all the way to the top here, which you probably can't see. Oops, I changed it to standalone tweets. What is a standalone tweet, actually, now that we're talking about that? Standalone tweet means that it's not connected to any one of your books in particular. So this way you might have something where you say, hey, you know, I'm a comedy author, check out all my stuff, and then send them to your Amazon book page, as opposed to a specific book connection. So that's just another way to do that. As you can see, that's right here. It's a standalone tweet. All right, so let's go ahead and add a tweet. Click on that. Again, you can make this a standalone, but I'm going to go ahead and stick with Pentology here. And let me copy a link from a different window. And I'm going to paste that link into here. Now, remember, ReaderLinks does not support uploading of images or anything to our system like that. So you'll have to either use the Amazon image, or you can use a Twitter image. Maybe you've uploaded the image there before, so you can use the URL from that. Or maybe you just have it on your WordPress site or some other repository, but you'll have to have your own link for that image. Once you have pasted that in there and you click into the next field, keep an eye over on this side, and you'll see the image show up. That way you can verify it's the correct image. Okay, now what we can do is just, you know, type in what we want. This is a great book. Yay. Okay, terrible tweet, but you get the idea. All right, so now, of course, we have the age-old fun, hey, I need to put in hashtags. So obviously this is science fiction, so I can do this, or I can try something different here. I can come down at the bottom here where it says search for hashtags. I click on that link. That's going to bring up this neat little tool called Hashtagify. Now, no, we did not create this tool. We basically just use it all the time because it's really cool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and type in science fiction like that. And let's see if anything comes up. So it does, but you notice that this is kind of small. It's got a popularity of 57. That's not too bad. Anything over 50 is pretty good. But notice that sci-fi is connected to it, and that looks a little better. So if I click on that one instead, that's got a 70% rating. So I think I'm going to go with sci-fi as my keyword on this guy. So I'm just going to come over here, and I'm going to type in sci-fi. And then I'm going to also look at all the other things that are connected to this thing and say, huh, you know, it is a Kindle book, and if you look at that, that's a 78%. Of course, just having books is 76%. That's pretty good too. Maybe, you know, your particular book is a thriller, or hey, maybe it's free. That's a really heavy popularity. So you can look at all of these different ones. And by the way, this is like the Independent Author Network, and they'll help retweet stuff for you, assuming you do the same for them. Independent Author Retweet Group. And things of that nature, so you can kind of run around. Also, down here at the bottom, if you click on table mode, you can see a different view of that. It shows you things like weekly trends, monthly trends, just to show you the popularity and so on of these things. I'm just going to go ahead and use the Kindle one, just so we can move on with this example. So I'm just going to type in hashtag Kindle. Now, one more thing I want to show you. Down here at the bottom, it has the characters remaining. This is very similar to when you're just setting up a tweet. So as I start typing more and more stuff, you'll see that those characters start going down, and, you know, deleting stuff, they'll go back up. So I'm going to go ahead and copy in my URL here, and I want you to notice something. This number is going to jump real quick, and it dropped down to 83. If I start backspacing, you'll think, oh, well, that's going to backspace and take away the characters. And it won't. The reason why it won't is because this is using the same methodology that Twitter uses to say, if it's a URL, only take up so many characters. Because, and I can sit here and continue on the size of this URL, and it's never going to lose those characters at the bottom because it still thinks it's a URL. Okay, so that's not really an accurate URL, so we don't want to use that. But that's the idea there. So URLs aren't going to take up additional space, which is really kind of cool. Okay, so at this point, we're pretty much done with our text. We're done with our image. We've notified which book we're associating to. And now I'm going to go over here and say, well, this is a book bundle, so I'm going to put it in that category. And I'm going to say it is Platoon F book. I'll put it in that category. And I'll just go ahead and leave it as active. And at this point, I'm going to add this tweet. Now, so that tweet has just been added. And let's go ahead and just show those books. And so we can find it in here somewhere. This is a great book, yay. So here's the tweet that we just added in here, and we can send that out. I'm not going to, but we could because it's a terrible tweet. But you'll notice something. It's added this little _CF to the end of our URL. And the reason why it's doing that is this is a little identifier that says, hey, this is a tweet that we are connecting this link to. So this link alone is going to work just fine, but this piece of the link is also going to work because it's notifying reader links, hey, this is a Twitter link, so we want to track also how many clicks it's had since the last time this person or you have tweeted this one out. And it's also going to track the total clicks just for this link here. Why do we do that? Because you might actually want to use this URL. As you notice, here it is again, 388, 388, 388, 388, and so on. And we want to keep track of each one of these differently, but we don't want to create different links for all of them. So we just added a little additional identifier at the end. Again, it's not going to hurt anything. It's going to still work just fine, and so on. It's just to allow you to track your Twitter clicks in addition to any other link clicks that you might be using this for outside of Twitter. It's completely up to you. And so you can use the same URL across each one. Now, I also want to point out something else here. Actually, while I'm here, let's go ahead and delete this record so I don't keep it in there. All you got to do is go to Edit, say Delete this tweet. It's going to give you the big scary, oh, don't do this. But in this case, I'm pretty comfortable deleting it. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that one, and then that one's gone. One more thing to note. If you decide to use a non-reader links link, now you'll notice that this one is saying it's using my John P. Lawson site. That's because I'm using the WordPress plugin along with my reader links tool here. So that's why it's showing me my vanity URL. But if you decided to just type in www.amazon.com and put in the URL straight to Amazon, it's obviously not going to track your clicks and everything there because it's not sending through reader links. It's going directly to the other service, which means we have no idea that the person has clicked it. So the only way that these are going to be tracked is if you actually use a reader links link. Just something to keep in mind. Okay. And so at this point, that's pretty much all I can show you for this, except for one more little piece, I guess. And that is, if we go to the books, you can see, let's go ahead and go into this one. You can see here that there is a tab specifically in this book. So if I click on Book Tweets tab, then it's kind of the same thing as if I filtered only by this book. So that way, if I happen to be working in the Ononican section right today, I'm looking at my stats, I'm looking at my calendar, I'm doing all this kind of stuff, my links and all that, my reader team, and so on, I then can just go into the tweets and do any updates that I want to do here. So it just allows you to update, see the information, data, all that kind of stuff, either in this section or by using the Twitter tool. You can kind of see them all. And of course, if I really want to, I can just say, just show me the Ononican 4-book bundle, and I'm going to see the same thing here. It's just multiple ways for you to see the same data. Anyway, I know that's a lot of information to take in, and it's going to take you a little bit of work, but just keep on working with the Twitter tool, and I think you're going to find it fantastic.